This is Niela Milanio with the BCUC. Some of you have already seen from this morning, so hello again. And what I would like to do is just do a round of sound checks really quickly with each person. So what I'm going to do is just call out a participant's name, and at that point, if you can just come on your video and speak into your microphone, and we can just do that until we've run through everybody. So just first on my list, I have Miss April Young.
Good afternoon.
Oh, hi again. Yes, so everything is just exactly the same as usual. So I can hear you clearly. Can you just say a few more things so we can just capture your volume?
Sure. I'm happy to be part of the group today.
Okay, that's great. You sound very clear. Yeah, so if you can just mute yourself and turn off your video, I'm going to move on the list. And next I have Mr. Andrews.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Andrews. Thanks. Thanks so much for looking into what was going on your end. We also know that part of it is also, the microphones being left live in the venue, so that probably also was a part of it. But thank you so much for checking to see what you could do on your end.
Well, we'll see. I'll echo the comment made earlier that there's often an echo coming from mics in the room.
Yeah. Yes. So what we'll do.
I don't know if you can do anything about it, but.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What we're doing is just trying to make a note of which microphones have been turned on, and then just remembering to turn them off. So we'll just continue to do that. But yeah, it's possible that you will hear some echoing. But certainly if it is becoming too much of a, if it's prolonged or and it's distracting, please feel free to put it into the chat. And we'll, try to find out which microphone is on or see how else we can address it.
Okay.
Okay. So
it was very distracting in the gas one. When I first logged on, I felt quite disoriented because I'd hear myself back. About 3-second delay, which is just enough to shut your brain down. It was.
Well, we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. Well,
I need every neuron working I can possibly muster, believe me.
Right. Well, yeah. Mr. Quill, since I already have you on, I'm just going to run just a quick sound check. I mean, you've already gone through this before. But right now, do you hear a delay or an echo?
No, it's excellent.
Okay, great. I'm hoping it stays that way. But again, please feel free if it's starting.
Now I'm getting all kinds of weird stuff.
Just one moment. I think something.
Yeah, getting an extreme echo.
Okay, yeah. So when that happens, it's probably somebody just logged onto Teams here and they just got their microphones and speakers on.
Yeah, because just now was terrible.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, yes, okay. Okay, so I think I just left off with Mr. Quayle, so thank you so much. But yeah, Mr. Quayle, anybody, any of our virtual participants, please feel free if it's starting to get distracting and you can't hear, let us know in the chat. But yes, it's very possible that from time to time you might hear a little bit of an echo or something, and we'll do our best on our end. Okay, so I'm going to move on down. I've got Mr. Swislishoff.
You bet. It seems to be working except for that earlier echo, so I think we're all good.
Swislishoff online.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, he might have stepped away from his computer. Miss Meese?
Just jump in. I did hear Mr.
Yes, me too.
Switzensoff.
I heard him too.
I think you're muted at the moment.
No.
Nope. I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. We don't hear you, so just one moment.
Well, you don't hear me, but everyone else does.
Yeah, something on your end, I think,
Oh, there
because
we
we
go.
can hear each other.
Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, that's better now. We can hear you again. Do you mind just saying a few more things,
Okay.
just so we can capture your volume a bit?
No problem.
Okay.
Is this coming in clearly now?
Oh, sorry. I'm just speaking to Miss Meese at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, I can hear everybody. But it looks sometimes, yeah, I have echoes as well.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to Mr. Switzlishoff.
I've just unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. How about us on your end? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, great.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll mute again.
On to Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, I'm here, so hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can, Mr. Spencer, loud and
And
clear.
see me?
Thank you. Yes, we can. That's great.
Great.
Do you mind just saying a few more things for us for your volume check?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for allowing me to join virtually and participate in the event.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, if you can just mute yourself, turn off your video. I'm going to just continue on down the list here. I have Mr. Hackney.
Hello, here I am.
Hi, Mr. Hackney. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I can hear you quite clearly, and your volume is doing well, and we can see you on video. So I think we're good to go as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there anybody else online that I haven't checked, and any intervener online? If there is, please reveal yourself. Oh, Mr. Craig, I think you've just logged in or come in through the lobby.
I did, yes, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Yes, so somebody was just telling me secrets that I can't repeat, so. Mr. Craig, if you can just say a few more things, we're just going to just check your sound, your volume.
Yes, I'm happy to go on speaking indefinitely if you would like.
Well, I don't know. Okay, no, everybody's saying no. Everybody's saying no. Just
Don't take him up at that. Whatever you do, we'll be here for a week.
they're about to shoot the messenger. Actually, I feel. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Your volumes is great. Thank you for doing this.
One question.
Yes.
My device here is showing that my camera has been disabled. Is that something you've done, or
Let's see.
just something that's happened here?
Oh, I don't show that, but oh, here.
Okay.
Oh no, I think
David, there was an informal poll.
No, I've got it. I think I'm sorry, I put you in.
Oh. Yes, it's come back on.
Area.
So it looks like you did control it. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, I was going to say there was an informal poll of the participants, but they turned it back on us by then.
Don't believe him.
And are you going to disclose the count?
Okay, is there anybody, any other interveners online that I haven't done a check with? Miss Worth, I think you've just joined us from the lobby. We're just doing a quick sound check just to check your volume. If you can just come online for a bit. Hi, Mr. Boykin. I think you've just joined us from the lobby.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Voigt, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Do you mind saying a few things? We're just checking your sound and your volume.
Sure. My name is Paul Voikin. I'm a representative with Move Up, and I represent workers in the FortisBC Customer Service Center.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. Your volume's in a good spot. Anybody else, any other interveners that have just joined us that I haven't called on to do a quick sound check?
This is Drayden Power from the city of Penticton. Sound's coming through well.
Okay, great. And you're hearing us clearly then?
Yep, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're good. So all those online, just if you could just hang on tight. I'm just going to let everybody know how to stay safe in this room.
Right. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. The workshop this afternoon is for the FortisBC Inc., otherwise known as FBC 2024 Annual Review of Rates Proceeding. My name is Anna Fung, and I'm the Deputy Chair of the BC Utilities Commission and the Chair of the panel that's been assigned to hear this matter. With me this afternoon are my fellow panel members, Commissioners Tom Losky and Wendy Royal. The purpose of the workshop this afternoon is for FBC to walk all of us through the 2023 performance results, as well as the key elements of its 2024 annual review application, and to provide participants with the opportunity to ask questions. The proposed workshop agenda with 6 topic areas was filed as Exhibit B-12 on October 5th, 2023. In addition, the panel requested an Exhibit A-6 issued on October 16, 2023, that FBC address 2 other specific items. There's several parties participating virtually on Microsoft Teams this afternoon. I would ask that virtual attendees please keep your microphones muted until you're called upon to speak and to appear via Microsoft Teams video. I'd also like to remind the virtual attendees that if they experience any internet connection issues during the workshop, please phone into the workshop. The call-in instructions were included in the email invitation you received through the Microsoft Teams link. In a worst-case scenario, if we lose any parties, I will temporarily adjourn the workshop and try to regroup and sort out where to go from there. I would like to remind everyone that this workshop is being transcribed and being live streamed to the public. Please note that no recordings or rebroadcasts of this workshop will be permitted beyond that maintained by the BCUC. Transcripts of the workshop will be posted to the BCUC website once it's available. To assist with the transcription, please remember to state your name and whom you represent before speaking, and to spell your name for the record the first time you state your name. Jim Cody, BCUC's external legal counsel, will be acting as the hearing officer for this workshop. If there's a need to file any exhibits during the workshop, I would ask that they be handed to Mr. Cody, who will mark the exhibits accordingly. Any such exhibits should then be filed with the Commission Secretary after the workshop in accordance with Part 3 of the BCUC's Rules of Practice and Procedure. I would also like to point out that Rule 15 of the BCUC's Rules of Practice and Procedure, which relates to transcripts, is now in force. It outlines the process in the event of a potential transcription error or correction of statements made during the workshop. If anyone has any suggestions for corrections to the transcript, please follow Rule 15. If you have any questions during the workshop and you're participating virtually, please raise your virtual hand or speak up, and I will ask FBC to assist us to try and maintain a speaker's order. Those in-person participants who have questions should come up to the podium at the front to pose your questions at the microphone so that they can be transcribed for the record. And finally, with respect to breaks, we'll try to take a natural break mid-afternoon at some point this afternoon, and I would ask FBC to let us know when that might be. Following FBC's presentation and the question and answer period, I will provide FBC with an opportunity to make any closing remarks should it wish to do so. I remind everyone that we're aiming to finish this workshop by no later than 5:30 p.m. today, and I'm sure we would appreciate it if we can do that even earlier. Now, I'm going to call on Laurel Ross, BCUC Acting Director of Rates, to introduce the BCUC staff who have joined us at this workshop. Ms. Ross?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'm Laurel Ross, R-O-S-S. I'm the Acting Director of the Rates Department at the BCUC. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce some of the members of the BCUC staff team that are with us today. We have our co-lead staff, Dhruv Bajaj, B-A-J-A-J, and Stephanie Chapman, C-H-A-P-M-A-N. We also have with us today Niadi Goyal, G-O-Y-A-L, and our hearing administrator, Niela Melanio, M-E-L-A-N-I-O. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. I will now call on Mr. Cody to handle the order of business, starting with the applicant, FBC, followed by the interveners who are in attendance at this workshop. Mr. Cody.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone else. First on the order of appearances is FortisBC Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Cody. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, panel members, and participants. My name is Janice Jolly, J-O-L-Y, and I am a Regulatory Governance Coordinator for FortisBC. I would like to acknowledge that we are all joining from traditional unceded territories across the province of BC and Canada. For those of us attending here in person this afternoon, I want to acknowledge the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'll now introduce our key FortisBC participants, some of which are also presenters for today. Doug Slater, S-L-A-T-E-R, Vice President, Indigenous Relations and Regulatory Affairs. Sarah Walsh, W-A-L-S-H, Director of Regulatory Affairs. Anthony Ho, H-O, Manager, Rates and Revenue. Shannon Price, P-R-I-C-E, Power Supply Operations Manager. Carrie Grant, G-R-A-N-T, Regional Manager, Network Services. Derek Rinn, R-I-N-N, Regional Manager, Interior South. Lisa Ruckle, R-U-C-H-K-A-L-L, Senior Regional Engineer. James Wong, W-O-N-G, Director, Budgeting and Strategic Initiatives. And Brooklyn Malagaspi, M-A-L-I-G-A-S-P-E, Manager, Customer Experience and Business Performance. We also have other FBC participants in the room who will introduce themselves for the record if they are called upon to answer questions. Participants are welcome to ask questions during our presentation or wait until the question period at the end. As mentioned earlier, for those participating virtually, feel free to raise your virtual hand and we will do our best to manage a speaker's order for questions during the presentations. We plan to take an afternoon break at approximately 2:30 p.m. and depending on timing and the number of questions, the panel may decide if additional breaks are required. That concludes FortisBC's introductions. I'll pass it back to Mr. Cody for intervener appearances.
Thank you. Second on the list is, excuse me, Residential Consumers Intervenor Association.
Good afternoon, panel. Members of the chair panel, Matthew Matuziak, consultant on behalf of the Residential Consumers Intervenor Association, or RCIA. Last name is spelt Matusiak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matusiak.
Next in the order is the BC Municipal Electrical Utilities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the panel, it's Chris Weafer, W-E-A-F-E-R, appearing for the British Columbia Municipal Electric Utilities with my co-counsel, Patrick Weafer. You've heard online from Mr. Scott Spencer from the Nelson Electric Utility and from Drayden Power from Penticton. I also understand that Mr. Jeremy Storvold may be attempting to join, but maybe running a little late. And they may or may not pose questions during the proceeding. While I'm at the mic, I could also deal with the commercial energy consumers, if that's appropriate.
Sure.
So I'm also appearing for the Commercial Energy Consumers Association of British Columbia. Online is Mr. David Craig, and Mr. Craig will not hesitate to ask questions, as you will know. And we have in the room Ms. Lyra Joshi, G-J-O-S-H-E, as a consultant to the commercial energy consumers, and we are in the same position we were in this morning. We appreciate the efforts Fortis has made to answer the written information requests and are generally satisfied with the record, but we'll ask questions as matters may arise through the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Next is the Industrial Customers Group.
Madam Chair, panel members, Robert Hobbs, HOBBS, I appear on behalf of the Industrial Customers Group.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
Next is the Movement of United Professionals.
Good afternoon, Jim Quayle, Q-U-A-I-L. There's a microphone left on again. This morning, my brain just shut down from that phenomenon, but okay, it's better now. Feedback that was very disconcerting. And with me is Ms. April Young, Y-O-U-N-G, and Mr. Paul Voykin, V-O-Y-K-I-N. They are both staff representatives employed by my client, and they're both involved in providing union services to the workforce of this utility.
Well.
Energy Association.
There was a disconnect and I heard Energy Association. So I'm assuming that that means me. My name is Bill Andrews, A-N-D-R-E-W-S. I'm counsel for the BC Sustainable Energy Association. Also participating for BCSEA today is Thomas Hackney, H-A-C-K-N-E-Y. Thank you.
Last on the order of appearances is BC Old Age Pensioners Organization, Natal.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the panel. My name is Leah Worth, W-O-R-T-H, here as counsel for BCOAPO et al. And I am accompanied virtually by my colleague, Ms. Irina Mies, M-I-S. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Worth. I'm going to turn it over to now Ms. Walsh, if from FBC to take us through the PowerPoint presentation today, which has been filed earlier as an exhibit.
Thank you. Still learning how to use this microphone properly, but my name is Sarah Walsh, and I'm the Director of Regulatory Affairs at FortisBC. Bless you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your opening remarks, and welcome to everyone. As you can see on the agenda slide, we have 6 topic areas, and you can see the presenters identified here, who Janice already introduced. I'll be kicking us off with the approval sought. I'll also discuss the impact of the recently issued Generic Cost of Capital, or GCOC, Stage 1 decision and subsequent compliance filing on FBC's revenue requirement and rates. And I'll summarize the changes proposed in the evidentiary update, which we filed on October 10th. We'll then walk you through the revenue requirement and rates for 2024, followed by a presentation on power supply. We'll then present on the actions we're taking to respond to wildfires and our request for the Climate Change Operational Adaptation, or CCOA, Plan Deferral Account. And finally, we'll discuss our service quality indicators. I believe, as Madam Chair already noted, on October 16th, the BCUC issued a letter requesting that FBC be prepared to address 2 topics at the workshop. The first topic is regarding the CCOA Plan Deferral Account, and the second topic is regarding the System Average Interruption Duration Index, or SAIDI results. We'll include a discussion of the specific points outlined in the letter as part of our presentations on these 2 topic areas. As was also mentioned, for questions that are not related to one of the 6 topic areas, we'll have an open question period at the end, where I'll direct questions to the appropriate person. The approvals sought in this annual review were detailed in section 1.2 of the application and are summarized on this slide. The bolded items are new or revised requests and are primarily the result of the GCOC Stage 1 decision, which was issued on September 5th. We're now seeking approval of a permanent 2024 rate increase of 6.74%. We're also seeking approval of a 3-year amortization period for the 2023 Revenue Deficiency Deferral Account, commencing January 1, 2024. The other approvals sought remain unchanged from the application and include the establishment of 5 new rate-based deferral accounts, the 2025 Multi-Year Rate Plan Application Deferral Account, the 2024 Mandatory Reliability Standards Audit Deferral Account, including a requested 3-year amortization period commencing in 2024, the CCOA Plan Deferral Account, including a requested 4-year amortization period commencing in 2024, and the PST Rebate on Select Machinery and Equipment Deferral Account, as well as the BC Cost of Living Credit Deferral Account, with requested 1-year amortization periods for both of these accounts commencing in 2024. I'll now discuss the key determinations from the GCOC decision and the recent BCUC order, which approved FBC's requests that were contained in the GCOC compliance filing. And this order regarding the compliance filing was G-276-23 and was issued on October 17th. The GCOC decision approved a deemed equity component of 41% and an allowed return on equity, or ROE, of 9.65%, both effective January 1, 2023. The impact of the decision on FBC's 2023 revenue requirement was that FBC's revenue deficiency increased by $6.213 million. In the compliance filing to the GCOC decision, we proposed to set 2023 permanent rates at the existing approved interim rates and propose to record the revenue deficiency resulting from the GCOC decision of $6.213 million in the new deferral account titled the 2023 Revenue Deficiency Deferral Account. As I mentioned, these requests were recently approved by Order G276-23. As part of the approvals in this order, the BCUC stated that the disposition of the 2023 Revenue Deficiency Deferral Account would be reviewed in this annual review. We included the proposed disposition in the evidentiary update, which we filed on October 10th, and I'll also go over that further in my next slide. So the two tables on this slide are tables 1 and 3 from the evidentiary update. But they've changed slightly since when we filed the evidentiary update to reflect some minor errors that we identified when preparing for this workshop. There is a minor misallocation of costs between the 2024 impact related to the GCOC and the amortization of the 2023 Revenue Deficiency Deferral Account. And this misallocation was approximately $8,000. However, the overall revenue deficiency, which is the $28.870 million shown on Table 1, remains unchanged. So it's just the two line items in between the August 4, 2023 filing line item and the evidentiary update line item that have changed slightly by $8,000. So looking at first at Table 1, the 2024 GCOC impact line item was $6.117 million in the evidentiary update, and we've now corrected it to $6.125 million. Similarly, the 2023 Revenue Deficiency Deferral Account amortization line item was originally $2.079 million, but has now correspondingly been reduced to $2.071 million. And once again, overall, there's no change to the $28.870 million. The other table on this slide is Table 3 from the evidentiary update, and it's also been corrected to reflect that slight misallocation. And you can see that as the total line item at the bottom of the table, the $6.125 million. Anthony Ho will discuss this table further in his presentation. I'd also note that none of the other tables in the evidentiary update require changes. So I'll now briefly walk you through the adjustments we've made to our 2024 rates, which were contained or are contained in Table 1, which have resulted in the revised proposed rate increase of 6.74%. The first adjustment is to update the inflation factor to provide the updated results for AWEBC for May and June 2023, as those were the 2 months that we did not have actuals for at the time of filing our annual review materials. We also updated the April 2023 AWEBC to reflect the update from Statistics Canada. There's no impact to the revenue deficiency or rate increase when rounding to 3 decimal places. The second adjustment is the 2024 impact resulting from the changes to FBC's cost of capital due to the GCOC decision. The overall impact is an increase of $6.125 million to the 2024 revenue deficiency. And my colleague Anthony Ho will discuss the components of this increase in his presentation on the 2024 revenue requirement and rates. The third adjustment is the inclusion of amortization expense for the 2023 revenue deficiency deferral account. As I'll explain further in my next slide, we're proposing to amortize the balance in this deferral account over 3 years. So this amount represents the first year of amortization. We also identified an error to FBC's emergency response time SQI results in the evidentiary update. This will be discussed by James Wong as part of his presentation on SQIs. So in summary, we're proposing to recover the full 2024 impact of the GCOC decision in 2024 rates, and we're proposing to start amortizing the balance in the 2023 revenue deficiency deferral account in 2024. And overall, this results in an updated proposed rate increase for 2024 of 6.74%. In my final slide, I'll discuss the options described in the evidentiary update for amortizing the 2023 revenue deficiency deferral account. As I previously explained, we're proposing to amortize the deferral account over 3 years, commencing January 1, 2024. The table on this slide is from the evidentiary update and provides the rate and bill impacts of 1 to 5 year amortization periods. Since we're proposing a 3-year amortization period, the rate impact in the table for this scenario is 0, because we've already incorporated this impact in our calculation of the proposed 6.74% rate increase. The key considerations when selecting the proposed 3-year amortization period were rate smoothing and timely recovery of costs. For instance, a 1-year amortization period has a large incremental impact on the 2024 rate increase, and therefore we did not consider this approach to be preferable. On the other hand, amortization periods greater than 3 years provided minimal additional amounts of rate smoothing compared to a 3-year amortization period, and would also result in less timely recovery of costs. We therefore ultimately consider a 3-year amortization period to be the best option and have included this approval in our updated approval sought in the evidentiary update. And I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walsh. Are there any questions with respect to the approvals sought? I think BCUC staff have some questions for you, Ms. Walsh.
Good afternoon. This is Dhruv Bajaj from the BCUC. Last name spelled B-A-J-A-J. I'll just wait for the workshop aid to be handed out first. If everyone's received the aid. My questions relate to the change in revenue deficiency in the evidentiary update when compared to the application. Firstly, in Table 1, which is page 1 of the workshop aid, and we know that our workshop aids are based on the evidentiary update and not the updated presentation. You show that the difference in FBC's 2024 revenue deficiency between the August 4, 2023 filing and the evidentiary update is about $8.196 million, consisting of the update to the I-factor calculation for updated AWEBC data, which has no impact, and the 2024 impact of the Stage 1 GCOC decision amounting to $6.125 million, and the proposed amortization of the 2023 revenue deficiency deferral account in the amount of $2.071 million. Next, turning to Schedule 1 in Appendix A to the evidentiary update, that is page 3 of the workshop aid. This shows a summary of the rate change compared to 2023 approved, which includes the impact of amortization on deferral accounts in line 19 and a 2023 revenue deficiency impact in line 30. My first question is, could you please confirm whether the changes in the 2024 revenue deficiency amounting to $8.196 million in Table 1 should reconcile to the amounts in Schedule 1 of the evidentiary update.
Anthony Ho here from FortisBC. First of all, I would like to clarify the tables in the evidentiary updates, especially Table 1, they're comparing between the 2024 evidentiary update to the 2024 numbers that were filed in August, whereas the schedule provided in the evidentiary update and also the Schedule 1 that you're referring to right now, it's comparing the 2024 evidentiary update, which is the final, our final proposed revenue requirements, compared to the 2023 approved numbers, which were from the GCOC compliance filing. So I would say the numbers in the Table 1 of the evidentiary update would not be shown in the Schedule 1 of the schedule, but they are included in it. So the changes due to the between the two 2024 filings are part of the schedule, but the numbers specifically would not be shown in the schedule.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. If that's the case, could you please explain the difference between the amortization of the proposed 2023 revenue deficiency deferral account of 2.071 million, which is shown in Table 1, and the full amount of 6.213 million that is shown in line 30 of Schedule 1?
Yes, I can do that. So there are actually two different items. So first of all, the amortization of the 2023 deferral account, which is part of line 19 of Schedule 1, is the amount that we did not recover from 2023. So just let's one step at a time. Basically means is in 2023 we defer about $6.2 million that to hold our 2023 rates as we remain at 3.98%. So in 2023 we did not recover that. However, in 2024, our revenue requirements, it's still going to be including that deficiency. So in line 19, that amortization is to start to recover the first year of the amortization of the $6.2 million that we did not recover in 2023. Whereas for line 30 of Schedule 1, that is the add back so that in 2024, our revenue requirements in 2024 includes that deficiency. Let's maybe put a simple example is like, let's say 2023, our revenue requirement is, let's say, $100, and 2024 is $100. In 2023, we did not recover, let's say, $20. But over the 2 year, we still need to recover $200. So that's why in 2024, we need to recover, first of all, that $200 that we did not recover from 2023, plus that $100 our revenue requirements in 2024. So going from 2023 to 2024, the increase is actually the double of the amount of first the $20 and going to, so in total it's actually $120 we need to recover.
Thanks for the response. The second answer is absolutely clear. Just for the first one, I'd just like to clarify whether you say that the amounts are supposed to be included, but they're not directly shown in Schedule 1 for the first question.
Yes, specifically line 19, that $1.8 million includes also include other amortization. So it's not just the 2023 amortization of the deficiency.
No, I meant the entire change of $8.196 million, where I asked whether it's supposed to reconcile to Schedule 1. And you said that those numbers are supposed to be included, but they're not shown directly.
They are in the numbers, but they're not. You won't able to find specifically that $8.1 million in like shown in the schedule. They're part of the numbers.
If they're part of the numbers, can that be explained in a separate calculation as part of an undertaking?
Yes, I could provide undertaking to reconcile between the difference between the two 2024 filings and reconciling Schedule 1 of the schedules.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Ms. Walsh on approval sought? All right, I don't see any virtual hands, so thank you very much, Ms. Walsh. And now, Mr. Ho, you're up on revenue requirement and rates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, panel members. My name is Anthony Ho. I'm the manager of rates and revenue here at FortisBC. My part of the presentation will be going over the different components of the 2024 revenue requirements for FBC and the key drivers of the deficiency. Here's a FBC total revenue requirement for 2024 is approximately $457 million. Again, before I start, I would like to emphasize that the numbers in my part of the presentation includes the inventory update that was mentioned by Sarah in her presentation earlier. So this includes the update to the AWE-BC, also includes the impact of the GCOC impact, and the inclusion of the 2023 deferred deficiency. Here's a pie graph showing the different components of the revenue requirements. You can see from this pie graph, the largest component of our 2024 revenue requirement is related to power supply, which totaled to approximately $194 million, or about 42% of the revenue requirements. The remaining 57% of the revenue requirements includes our earned return, depreciation expense, O&M, income tax, deferred amortization, as well as the label Other, which includes property tax and other revenue. As I have mentioned in my previous slide, the 2024 revenue requirement is about $457 million. However, at the existing 2023 rates, we are forecast to recover about $428 million. So this makes the deficiency of approximately $29 million, equivalent to the 6.74% rate increase that are currently seeking approval of. Here's a table showing the breakdown of the individual components contributing to the total deficiency before and after the inventory update, which include the GCOC decision. I would like to highlight the GCOC impact and amortization of the 2023 deferred deficiency shown in this table here reflect the correction to Table 1 of the inventory update, which also Sarah mentioned earlier in her presentation. Again, the total of these two lines are the same. It's just about $8,000 were now correctly shown under the GCOC impact instead of the 2023 amortization of the deferral deficiency. As you can see, the largest driver of our 2024 deficiency, even after the inclusion of the GCOC decision, is the power supply cost, which contributed to about 2.67% of the total 6.74% rate increase. My colleague Shannon Price will provide discussions on power supply in her presentation later today. The other two key drivers of the 2024 deficiency are the impact due to GCOC as well as income tax. I will go over each of these in my slides later. Here's a waterfall graph illustrating graphically the impact of the individual components to the FBC revenue deficiency. The only orange bar on the left-hand side represent the surplus resulting from customer growth. So it helps to reduce our deficiency for 2024. Whereas all the other blue bars are deficit that adds to the deficiency. This graph also highlights the step again to go to that went from the 4.83% rate increase as part of our August 4th filing to the inventory update 6.74% rate increase. Again, this graph really helps to identify the key drivers of our 2024 deficiency, which are, again, the power supply, which is the first circle on the left, the income tax, which is the middle circle, and the GCOC impact, which is the circle, the red circle on the right-hand side. So the GCOC decision is one of the main drivers of the 2024 deficiency. Just to recap, the GCOC decision determined that our deemed equity for FBC is now 41%, which is a 1% increase from before. And also the allowed ROE is now 9.65%, which is an increase of 0.5%. Here's a table showing the different component of the GCOC impact to the revenue requirement. Now, I would like to again highlight this table is an amended version of Table 3 of the inventory update, which Sarah also mentioned earlier in her presentation. Again, just to highlight, it is row 4 and 5 now showing separately are the change in the amortization and also the change in income tax expense. Previously, in the original version of Table 3 in the inventory update, these two lines were lumped together, and also they were lumped together and just shown as a change in income tax expense. So starting from the top of this table, as you can see, the increase of the deemed equity by 1% and also the ROE by 0.5% increased FBC return on equity by about $5.092 million. This is calculated based on our forecast of 2024 rate base of about $1.7 billion. This is offset slightly due to the reduction of our interest expense to our short-term debt by approximately $726,000. The reduction of this is because the 1% increase in deemed equity, which means we reduced our short-term debt by the equivalent amount. The increase in our ROE for 2024, as well as the reduction, the small reduction in interest expense, resulted in an overall increase of our return on capital by approximately $4.366 million. This is shown on the third row of this table. Next is the change in amortizations. So first, the amortization of the flow-through deferral account is now reduced by approximately $87,000, which is shown in the middle of this table, the breakdown between change and amortization. This $87 change is because in the GCOC decision, which determined the effective date is January 1st, 2023. So because of that, in 2023, because of the increased 1% of deemed equity, also effectively reduced our interest for 2023 as well. And because of the reduction of our interest in 2023, we are now projecting a reduction in our interest expense. And this change or the variance between our 2023 approved and 2023 projected interest expense is captured in the flow-through deferral account, which will be amortized into 2024. The GCOC decision also resulted change in the 2023 AFUDC rates, because again, the effective date of GCOC decision is January 1st, 2023. And the change in 2023 AFUDC rate will be reflected in our amortization expense into 2024. Next is the impact to the income tax, which is due to the increase of our return. And I have included a reconciliation table at the bottom, which shows how we went from the increase of $4.366 million to the income tax of about $1.85 million. again, just want to highlight that the change in amortization of approximately $91,000 are also impact the income tax expense calculations. And finally, as Sarah also mentioned in her presentation earlier, we are now approved to defer approximately $6.213 million of our 2023 deficiency as part of the 2023 GCOC compliance filing. And we are proposing to amortize this 2023 deficiency over 3 years, starting in 2024. So in this table, you will see the approximately $2.071 million of amortization of the 2023 deferred deficiency in 2024. So when you including this amortization of the 2023 deficiency, as well as the impact of the GCOC in 2024 rates, the total impact is about $8.2 million, or roughly 1.91% of the 2024 rate increase. The next another key driver of our 2024 deficiency is related to income tax. And this is before the consideration of the GCOC decision. The main reason of this increase is because of the phase out of Canada's accelerated investment incentive starting in 2024. The accelerated investment incentive was effective since 2018, which allowed FBC to take accelerated CCA of a 50% adder for income tax deduction. This additional 50% adder is now being phased out in 2024 and will be completely eliminated in 2028. The phase out of this accelerated CCA increased our income tax by about $2.2 million. You can see, as you can see on the top of this slide, the total income tax increase is about $4 million, and the CCA contributed to about half of that. My final slide here, I would like to provide a summary of the FBC 2024 O&M expense comparing against the 2023 O&M expense. The left-hand side graphs shows the 2023 approved O&M, and the right-hand side shows the 2024 proposed O&M. For the stacked bar at the top, the big green stack represent the formula O&M, which includes the allowed increase under the through the net inflation factor and also customer growth. The orange slice at the top shows our forecast O&M, sometimes referred as O&M outside of formula or flow-through O&M. There's also a very small slice of yellow at the bottom, which represent the true-up of formula O&M from 2 years prior, due to the difference between the actual 2022 customer count and the forecast customer count. For 2024, this true-up is actually a reduction of about $30,000 to our 2024 formula O&M. You can see majority of our O&M is related to the formula O&M, which will be increased from about $69.8 million to $72.9 million. So of the $3 million increase of our O&M, of formula O&M, $2.5 million is related to the allowed increase through the net inflation factor, whereas while the remaining $0.5 million is related to increase of customer count. The rest is our forecast O&M or flow-through O&M, which we are expecting to reduce by approximately approximately reduced from $2.3 million to $1.5 million. As you can see from the bar graphs providing a breakdown of our forecast O&M at the bottom, the reduction is primarily due to the reduction in our forecast O&M in pension and OPEB. OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. This reduction is primarily driven by increase in discount rate. Beside the change in the pension and OPEB, the changes to our forecast O&M expense are for insurance, BCUC fees, and our EV DCFC stations are relatively small. So this concludes my part of the presentation, and I'm happy to take on any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ho. Are there any questions on revenue requirements and rates for Mr. Ho? I think the afternoon lunch lull settled in. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ho. I think, barring any questions, so rush to the front, we're going to move on to the next item, which is, I believe, power supply costs.
Yeah, we're trying to.
Perhaps Mr. Ho can help. Do we have a dead battery issue? And, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Ho.
Hi there, my name is Shannon Price. I'm Power Supply Operations Manager with FortisBC, and I'm going to talk today about Section 4 of the application. So first of all, the role of power supply at FortisBC is basically to plan resources in order to serve load. We receive a load forecast from the load forecasting group, which outlines our energy and capacity requirements, and from there we figure out how we'll meet that load. We must consider both how we will get the power, so is it generation or long-term contract, as well as how we will move it, so both generation and transmission. We look at a variety of time horizons over the planning process. Long-term planning is important for infrastructure and financial planning, which is what the long-term electric resource plan does. We also do medium-term planning, which is 1 to 4 year time horizon through processes such as our annual electric contracting plan and the revenue requirements applications, and these help us further optimize our portfolio. Finally, we also do short-term planning, load forecasting, and purchasing on a daily and hourly basis. Short-term planning is focused on balancing the grid, and balancing will always be required due to unexpected events such as transmission outages, generation outages, and weather spikes. So our group must manage the commercial side of the physical supply and optimize the costs of our portfolio, which is valued at roughly $170 million on an annual basis. This graph shows our planned supply side resources as presented in the application, with energy on the left and capacity on the right. FortisBC owns its own generation resources on the Kootenay River, represented by the blue at the bottom of each column. The FortisBC plants supply about 42% of FBC's energy requirements and about 27% of the company's peak demand. The remaining energy and capacity has to be purchased from other sources. FortisBC is also a party to long-term power supply contracts, so working our way up the columns, we buy power under long-term contract from the Brilliant Power Corporation, from BC Hydro, and from the Waneta Expansion Power Corporation. We also purchase some of our power from the wholesale market. Electricity is a physical commodity and trades in competitive wholesale markets. Prices usually reflect factors driving supply and demand. These wholesale market purchases can be done a year or two in advance and be used as a planning tool, or they can be used as a system balancing tool, and purchases can be made on an hour-by-hour basis. This graph shows from left to right the 2023 approved, 2023 projected, and 2024 forecast total power supply costs as shown in Table 4.1 within the application. Power supply cost is made up of power purchase expense in the blue, wheeling expense in the orange, and water fees in the green. Costs went up across all three categories, in 2023 projected as compared to approved, as well as in 2024 forecast compared to projected. The largest increase is a result of power purchase expense. 2023 power purchase expense has increased, projected power purchase expense has increased by $7.298 million compared to 2023 approved, and 2024 forecast power purchase expense has increased by $2.821 million compared to 2023 projected. So first I'll discuss the increase in projected compared to approved. So market purchases are driving most of the increase, both due to volume and rates. The volume has increased for several reasons. Year-to-date real-time market purchases have been included in 2023 projected through June, and these have offset purchases under the BC Hydro PPA. Summer capacity block purchases have also been included, consistent with our capacity self-sufficiency policy accepted as part of the 2021 Long-Term Electric Resource Plan. Additional forward block purchases have also been included, consistent with the strategy presented in the 2023-24 Annual Electric Contracting Plan, and these have been at higher prices than we've seen in recent years. These increased forward block purchases meet FortisBC's planning objective of ensuring we have firm resources to meet expected load requirements and to manage exposure to the cost and availability of market power. So next I'll discuss the increase from projected to forecast. The increase in costs are primarily a result of increased Waneta expansion costs, with rates being the main driver. But also contributing are decreased SEPSA sales forecast for 2024. BC Hydro PPA costs have also increased based on volume, and this reflects the reduced volume of market and contract purchases in 2024. Generally, a reduction in market and contracted purchases will correspond with increasing PPA take. The market and contracted purchases that have been included in 2024 are at higher rates than those in the 2023 projected. Again, 2023 projected contains year-to-date spot market purchases, which were done on a short-term basis when prices were relatively low, and contribute to a lower average cost in the 2023 projected compared with 2024 forecast. So we have a smaller amount of market at higher rates, which also pushes up PPA use. The majority of the market purchases included in 2024 are those required to address energy and capacity shortfalls. So this graph shows actual power purchase expense variance compared to approved. For example, the first blue bar on the graph shows that actual power purchase expense in 2017 was $3 million less than 2017 approved. As you can see, from 2017 through 2020, power purchase expense was under plan in each of those years, whereas from 2021 onward, actual has been greater than approved. Also plotted on this chart is the average mid-C market price for each year, which is shown by the solid orange line. What this graph tells us is that as market prices get higher, mitigation opportunities decrease. In 2017 through 2020, market prices were well below the BC Hydro PPA rate, which is shown by the dotted line, and therefore FortisBC was able to mitigate power purchase expense substantially. However, you can see that market prices in 2021, 2022, and 2023 are surpassing the BC Hydro PPA energy rate, and power purchase expense has gone up correspondingly. Next, I want to give a bit of context as to why the electricity market has shifted up substantially. The Western Interconnection, which is the interconnected electricity grid that covers Western Canada and the US, is currently facing a period of resource adequacy concerns. Increased coal retirements, along with increased intermittent generation, are leaving the region and the Pacific Northwest capacity short. We have also seen lower hydro generation in recent years, greater summer demand, as well as increasing extreme weather events. There is a growing interdependency between natural gas and electricity markets, as more gas-fired generation is required to compensate for lost baseload generation. These capacity constraints in the region are resulting in greater price volatility in wholesale markets and higher prices compared to what we've seen in recent years, a result of baseload resources being replaced with intermittent resources. This constrained environment is changing how and when entities can rely on imports, and this is true for FortisBC as well. This next slide further shows the step change we've seen in the electricity markets. So this graph shows 4 forward curves for off-peak mid-sea power prices. So working our way up from the bottom of the graph, the blue line is from 2020. The next line above that in the orange is from 2021. The next in gray is prices from 2022. And finally, the top yellow line shows data from 2023. These are plotted against the BC Hydro PPA energy rate, which is shown by the black line. During most of the year, we are trying to optimize between the PPA and the market. As you can see, the BC Hydro PPA energy rate is now lower than market rates during most months of the year, which has not been the case for the past several years. However, the PPA acts as a valuable price ceiling for FortisBC, which can reduce the majority of our exposure to high market prices, which is the situation that we're in right now. And so finally, one benefit to FortisBC as a result of the high price market environment has been increased revenue from our surplus capacity sales during certain months of the year. FortisBC is able to optimize its surplus capacity by selling it to PowerX on a day-ahead basis, which can create significant benefit for the ratepayer, as revenue from these sales is linked to market prices. Finally, I would just like to review some of the implications of this rapidly changing high-priced market environment that we're in. So first, as wholesale prices go up, the opportunities for mitigation goes down. FortisBC does optimize its portfolio between the PPA and the wholesale market, and currently PPA is more economic than the market. This is why we've been increasing our PPA nomination for the past several years. We do expect that the wholesale market will continue to be tight over the next several years, as the trends we are seeing are not short-term issues. Extreme events do have potential to expose us to high costs, but can also result in large capacity sales. And finally, FortisBC ensures the security of supply for its customers and reduces exposure to potential extreme prices by entering into fixed price forward contracts to address supply gaps. And I can take any questions.
I do have a question for you, Ms. Price. Thank you very much for that presentation. Do you know when the hydro PPA expires?
I do. I think we are halfway through the term. It was set for 20 years, so another 10 years from now, 2030.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Price on power supply?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have one.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering, when I was looking at the response to BCOAPO 13.2.2, it stated that additional PPA and market purchases were required to meet load in 2022, and therefore none of the market purchases were made to replace PPA purchases. But the utility's response to BCUC IR 9.5 indicated that there were cost savings due to market purchases replacing PPA. And I'm wondering if you can explain whether that's inconsistent, because to me that just sort of seemed a little odd, and I was wondering if you could reconcile that for me.
Okay, let me just have a look at the IRs.
Sure.
So we are showing a small amount of PPA offset in the response to, it's a realized savings number that we've included in the response to BCUC IR 9.5. And the point that we were trying to get across in BCO APO 9.6 was that because of the large increase in load, it was over 200 gigawatt hour increase, we did need more of both resources. So not only did our PPA volume go up, so did our market purchases. So really we needed more from both contracts in order to serve that load.
I see. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Price? All right, hearing none, is there somebody? Yes. Oh, Ms. Worth, do you have another question, or is that an old hand? Oh, I think she's taking it down now.
I apologize. I actually did have one quick question. I was wondering whether the forecast gross load for 2023, being only 38 gigawatt hours higher than the approved value that was referenced in Exhibit B6, BCOAPO IR 15.1.1. I was just wondering if the most of the increased usage for the 2022-23 contract period was occurring in 2022, or if not, if you could reconcile that information.
Sorry, could you just repeat that one more time for me?
Sure. The information that we have is that the forecast gross load for 2023 is only supposed to be 38 gigawatt hours higher than the approved value, according to the utilities response to our IR 15.1.1. And so I'm wondering if most of the increased usage in the 2022-23 period for the contract under the PPA occurred in 2022, or if it was in 2023, how you can reconcile that with sort of the PPA information that's on the record here.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yes, much of the increase was due to increased load at the end of 2022, because that was the polar vortex that we experienced, and that was a prolonged cold snap during November and December. But we've also had increased load in the 2023 contract year as well.
Are you happy with that, Ms. Worth?
Yes, Madam Chair, I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Price. Did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to pass it on to my colleagues.
I was going to just point out to Ms. Walsh, it's now 2:30, so I'm in your hands.
Thanks. I would suggest that we might as well break, because we also need to switch around some of our presenters. So why don't we do that? And we can also, if you'd like, Madam Chair, confirm the expiry date of the PPA, because Shannon had said around 2030, but I'm sure we could, we'll reach out to someone to get the answer.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walsh. So we'll take a 15-minute break and then come back to talk about climate change, wildfires, and evolving operations. Thank you. All right, I think we can reconvene. So back to the FEI. Ms. Walsh, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, FBC.
Just before we launch back into the presentations, I just wanted to clarify for the record that the BC Hydro PPA expires in 2033.
Thank you. So you were, Ms. Price was right after all. Thanks. All right, I think we're ready for the next segment.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Carrie Grant, Regional Manager of Network Services, responsible for transmission and distribution operations, and I'm here today with my colleague Derek Rinn.
Hello, I'm Derek Rinn, Regional Manager Interior South, formerly the Regional Manager of Network Services prior to November of last year. So today we're going to talk about the evolution of our wildfire response and look to the future as we consider climate adaptation and what that means for us.
Quick overview of our presentation today. We will review wildfire statistics for British Columbia, a look at what has changed in the last few years as the wildfires have increased in severity and frequency, then review recent examples of wildfires near our system and our operational response, and then we'll pass it on to our asset management team to talk about how we are planning for the future.
Okay. Now this slide highlights the changing environment in which we operate. It shows the area burnt in hectares in BC over the last 10 years. 2017 broke the record for the most area burnt, which had previously been set in 1958. Moving forward, 2018, then 2023 have subsequently set new records. Thanks. Overall, 4 of the last 7 years have either set a new record or exceeded the value set 65 years ago. With the change in wildfire behavior, our operational practices have evolved. I will now discuss some of those changes we've made, and in the coming slides, we will see how these changes have been used in response to actual fires. Vegetation management is a key part of our wildfire mitigation plan. In addition to our regular program, we take proactive measures when a wildfire threatens our assets. Depending on the time we have, we will clear ground vegetation around the radius of a pole, as well as applying fire retardant, as seen in the picture on the slide. We've also given our workers S100 training for wildfire suppression and safety. Our structure around managing wildfire emergencies has been strengthened through the internationally recognized Incident Command System. Through that, we've been able to work closer with our first responders and government organizations. We've also improved our situational awareness capability for wildfire with software tools such as INGI and FIRMS, which uses satellite thermal imaging to give us near real-time notifications of hotspots near our system. We will now look through some real examples of how we've applied these in recent fires.
This fire was on July 29th of 2023 in Osoyoos. There were 740 homes evacuated. This fire threatened 44 line, one of our transmission lines that feeds the city of Osoyoos. You can see the line in the photograph to the top left of the slide here. The fire was within a few hundred meters of our transmission line with wind blowing debris and embers towards our right-of-way. We activated our area command center to manage the emergency and ensure effective communications. Our crews mobilized, removing vegetation and spraying fire retardant on and around the poles in the threatened area. The control center put in contingency plans for alternative feeds in the event the line was lost. There was no asset damage or customer impact. This is an example of when we were able to get ahead of a fire and use our fire mitigation equipment to protect our assets.
We've evolved to take proactive measures when we're notified of fires through our monitoring processes. However, we don't always have time to get there ahead of the fire. In cases like this example, where a fire started in Kalamalka Provincial Park near Vernon, we still have a layered defense. We have a signed agreement with the BC Wildfire Service, who will fight the fires on our behalf and protect our assets. In the picture, you can see an example of this, where the BC Wildfire Service prioritized protection of our wooden poles in this wildfire. And if you look in the picture, you can see there's one little unburnt patch in that large area, and it's hard to see, but there are wooden transmission structures in there. So you can see that's where they did the protection there. The significance of this is there are two transmission lines that supply Kelowna. Our next layer of defense was having a contingency plan developed to continue supply for the area in the event that those lines were lost. What we are further building on for the future of climate change is the potential to improve our fire resiliency such that we don't need to get there just before a fire, but could be passively protected through the design of our system.
This summer, our operational team responded to the Kelowna wildfires. This fire was different. It was in residential areas with emergency evacuations, including many of our employees. The fire was jumping large different distances. For example, there's 6 kilometers between the fire shown as McKinley Landing on the slide to the fire in the north by Winfield. This event started with a high wind event warning early on the day of August 17th. We notified our contractors and ensured our crews were prepared in the case of an event. That evening, our crews were called to support the fire departments by de-energizing sections of distribution lines as they worked to protect infrastructure and evacuate homes. On August 18th, we activated our corporate emergency response center with multiple area command centers set up across the interior. The City of Kelowna also activated their emergency operations center in collaboration with BC Wildfires. We had a FortisBC employee in the City Operations Center for the duration of the event, providing updates on fire movement, wildfire response, and emergency response plans, which proved to be incredibly valuable. Our crews worked closely with field incident command posts ran by Kelowna and Lake Country Fire Departments to maintain electrical supply to critical city pumping infrastructure to support our frontline response. In parallel to the immediate emergency response work, we also mobilized additional crews to apply fire retardant to high priority distribution feeders and transmission infrastructure based on information from BC Wildfire about projected fire movement. In the previous slide, Derek talked about 72 and 74 lines. These were the same transmission lines threatened during the Kelowna wildfire. There were 15 distribution poles damaged by the Kelowna landfill that our crews rebuilt in the days following the initial response. As the fire situation in Kelowna stabilized, we were asked to support BC Hydro through our mutual aid agreements on the West Kelowna rebuild. West Kelowna is within the BC Hydro service territory, with many homes lost and significant infrastructure damage. 2 of our crews worked rebuilding distribution lines to support our community in the recovery effort and return people to their homes. This was an example of multiple years of training and preparation coming together as our operations team formed part of the emergency response and the recovery team. Wildfires are just one of the extreme weather events that we have responded to over the last number of years, and these events are getting more severe and more frequent. Thank you for the opportunity to share our operational response and how it has evolved. And now I will pass it on to Lisa, who will review our climate adaptation planning at FortisBC.
I'm just curious, to what extent is FBC investing in potential use of artificial intelligence to predict wildfires and hence take a proactive stance to minimize the risk?
Hello, Lisa Ruckel here with FortisBC.
So as I'm going to discuss in the next presentation, we'll be talking about the climate change operational adaptation work that we're doing, with wildfires being one of the hazards that we're evaluating. And we'll be looking at potential adaptation strategies as part of the climate change risk assessment. And I'll be able to explain that in more detail in the upcoming slides in the next presentation. Since that assessment's still ongoing, I can't speak to yet which adaptation strategies we'd be selecting, but that work is evaluating that type of thing.
All right, thank you. I look forward to your presentation. It's a nice segue into it.
We've got a hand up, Mr. Quayle.
Yes, Mr. Quayle, please.
Yes, you mentioned that you had some of your own employees who were affected by the Kelowna area wildfire. I wonder if you could describe any measures you took to provide assistance to those members of your workforce.
Yeah, we did, is Derek Rinn. We did reach out to each and every employee that was evacuated and made sure that they were, one, safe. We also, in our response, many of the people that we needed for our response were from those evacuated. We said, take care of your family first, and then when you're able to come in, then do so. Because we didn't want people coming in and worrying about having to evacuate their family and being at work. So those are some of the things we did for our employees in that event.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quayle. Ms. Ruckel.
All right. Thanks, Carrie, and hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Ruckel, and I am a senior regional engineer in the Electric Network Assets Group, involved in planning and asset management at FortisBC. I'm going to walk through a few slides discussing work related to climate change operational adaptation, also referred to as CCOA. Before I get started, we received a letter issued from the BCUC on October 16th with a request from the panel to address the proposed climate change operational adaptation plan deferral account, including the reasons for the timing of the request in the annual review in relation to the 2020 to 2024 multi-year rate plan and the long-term electric resource plan applications. The following presentation will address that question. FortisBC has become increasingly aware of the threat that climate change poses to its infrastructure and operations. Derek and Carrie presented statistics showing the area burned by wildfires in British Columbia has been increasing, with this year almost doubling the previous record set in 2018. As we saw from their presentation, wildfire is a climate hazard that is impacting our system today. However, not only are we dealing with wildfires across the service territory, but other climate hazards have also impacted the system, such as flooding, windstorms, snowstorms, and extreme temperatures. The threat that climate change presents to FortisBC infrastructures and operations is a continuing reality that the company is taking seriously. The CCOA work aims to improve asset and operational resilience to climate change risk, and to maintain a safe and reliable supply for FortisBC customers. The climate hazards that FortisBC will be evaluating through the CCOA work are shown here on this slide, and they include wildfires, flooding, windstorms, snowstorms, extreme temperature, landslides, lightning, and freeze-thaw events. As a prudent operator, we think there is an urgent need to be proactive so we can continue to provide a safe and reliable supply of electricity to our customers. I'll now discuss how the CCOA work has evolved and how we propose the work to continue. First, I'll address the panel's question regarding timing of the CCOA deferral account in relation to the 2020 to 2024 multi-year rate plan and the long-term electric resource plan applications. FortisBC filed the MRP application in 2019, and at that time had not yet conceived of this work. However, since filing the MRP application, planning around climate change has evolved. In 2020, the Canadian Electricity Association, also referred to as CEA, began working on a guideline for climate change adaptation planning for electricity companies in Canada. This guideline was intended to help electricity companies develop a plan and prepare for its implementation. Climate change work at FortisBC began around this time. The guideline was completed and released by CEA in 2021. FortisBC filed the Long-Term Electric Resource Plan application in 2021. In the application and IR responses, we broadly discussed the need for climate change adaptation and explained that we were in the process of developing a roadmap for climate change adaptation. In the last few years, the urgency to respond to climate change has become clearer as the area burned by wildfires continues to increase, and we've experienced other climate events, including but not limited to the heat dome in 2021, the windstorms and flooding in 2021 as well, and the polar vortex in 2022. And that brings us here to the information on this slide. In 2022, FortisBC finished developing the roadmap for climate change adaptation, which defined the path towards identifying and managing the effects of climate change on the FortisBC system. The roadmap provides the overall structure for climate change adaptation and requires support from external expertise, which I'm going to explain more further on the next slide. The first step identified in the roadmap is the Climate Change Operational Adaptation Plan. As shown on this slide, the CCOA plan development began in 2023 and will continue into 2024. In 2023, FortisBC is working with consultants to complete a climate change risk assessment, also referred to as the CCRA, which will assess, at a high level, what risks climate change will have on FortisBC's assets and identify potential adaptation strategies. The CCRA is on track to be completed by Q4 2023. In 2024, we will begin to apply the CCRA results to determine specific vulnerable assets and begin identifying project alternatives. FortisBC expects additional climate hazard studies may be required at this stage. With the CCRA results applied to specific assets, FortisBC will then be able to develop plans to mitigate and adapt to climate hazard risks. FortisBC will consider the results and what applications might be necessary to implement the plan. Implementation of initiatives is anticipated through 2025 and beyond. FortisBC will continue to provide updates on the progress of the CCOA plan and the deferral account in future annual reviews or revenue requirement applications. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I can now take any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ruckel. Mr. Weaver, please, come on up.
Madam Chair, before Mr. Weaver asked his questions, I know that Mr. Slater was eager to follow up on your question about artificial intelligence.
Thank you. I was going to ask Ms. Ruckel that she didn't answer my question, but that's fine. I'm glad you noticed. Thank you, Mr. Slater. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I anticipated that we would come back to this. So, artificial intelligence is an emerging technology that we are reviewing. Our information services department is helping us do that, to look at what the tool could do for us and also manage some of the risks associated with artificial intelligence. We see it as a possibility to perhaps enhance the service we provide to customers, anticipating customer needs, and solving some problems like you've identified. However, I would say in relation to wildfires and predicting where they might occur and how they might spread, those might be applications which other partners that we've established relationships, like the provincial government, the BC Wildfire Service, our other utilities in British Columbia like BC Hydro and PNG might also collaborate with to try to develop something. I would suggest that perhaps the BC Wildfire Service would have a great interest in such a tool and being able to predict where fires might occur and where they'll spread. Certainly with the fact that about half of fires are caused by human causes and other half is wildfire and other things, there's definitely some opportunities to apply new tools to solving that problem. But as where it sits today, we haven't applied anything yet, but would probably look to collaborate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Slater. That's very helpful. Mr. Weaver, please.
Thank you. And I'm asking this question on behalf of the BC Municipal Electric Utilities, and Mr. Slater's last comment on collaboration is a timely comment. Can you describe what interactions you've had with the wholesale customers who operate municipal utilities that are fairly densely populated in relation to the two last topics? Firstly, wildfire and preparing for wildfires, and then secondly on this climate change operational adaptation plan, which has some urgency, I hear. Can you describe what discussions you've had with the BCMEU members with respect to their utilities?
Thank you for the question. So this year, we invited the municipal operators to come to one of our emergency exercises where we practice incident command structure. This was an opportunity to share some knowledge that we have and how we handle emergencies, and to see a event unfold throughout the day as we practice emergency response. And there was some attendance from the municipal operators.
Anything else on the climate change operational adaptation plans?
And I can speak to that. So, as I've discussed in the presentation, we're still early on in the development of the plan. So, first completing that climate change risk assessment and then application of those results to our specific assets in order to develop it. We haven't yet spoken specifically with BCMEU about climate change, and as we're still developing what those projects are. But, we do have an annual meeting with BCMEU, which had started last year, and as projects are in their area, that is something that we would discuss with them. But as this CCOA work continues to develop, we can take that away and think about what that collaboration looks like with BCMEU.
You'd agree they'd be good parties to enter into collaboration discussions with?
Yeah, and we have been, meeting with them annually. So definitely, this has still been very internal at the moment, but definitely something we can take away once we're able to see the results of the climate change risk assessment and how this process is going to unfold.
Has this topic been raised at any annual meeting to this point?
Not that I'm aware of, not specifically climate change. I think we have some of the other members of BCMEU on the call as well today, but specifically we've more so been talking about projects in the other areas that could impact the municipalities.
Great, but again, there is a willingness to have that collaboration and discussion with the BCMEU members, correct?
Yeah, and we'll just have to take a look and see kind of what that looks like once we've got all the results from the climate change operational adaptation work, but definitely collaboration is, what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. And just back to the wildfire topic, and there's been discussion about collaboration with BC Hydro and the interface with West Kelowna. Have you had similar meetings with the BCMEU members around wildfire interface issues?
In respect to mutual aid agreements?
Yes. Or otherwise, just with respect to the urgency of increased wildfires, and we've got municipal utilities that are potentially exposed, that are customers of Fortis. Have you had discussions with BCMEU members around wildfire collaboration?
just jump in, Sarah Walsh speaking. I think that Lisa and Kara already talked to the annual meeting that they've been having and that collaboration. Mr. Weaver, you referenced BC Hydro, but I believe that was just Mr. Slater was talking about BC Hydro and the BC Wildfire, I was going to say federation, but that's clearly not the right word, but he was speaking to that in collaboration. So I think, and that was more related to Madam Chair's question.
No, I was actually thinking of slide 31, support BC Hydro through mutual aid in West Kelowna. So that's what triggered the thought as to what discussions with respect to mutual aid with the municipal utilities.
Thanks for clarifying.
So maybe I can help out. It's Doug Slater. You know that it's been mentioned a few times, the annual meetings, and I think it would make a good topic to discuss, and we certainly have no objection to doing so. You know, there's a number of items to collaborate on with the municipal utilities, and you know, whether it's the annual meeting or another meeting that's arranged for such purpose, we'd be happy to put that on the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Weaver, and thank you, Mr. Slater. Are there any other questions from anybody else on climate change adaptation protocols? Yes, Commissioner Royal, please.
Just a question about the fires. Again, it was noted this summer that the big Kelowna fire that you've highlighted on slide 31 was 20 years after that big fire where a lot of residential homes were affected in Kelowna in 2003. I'm just wondering if you have any plans to continue or expand discussions and work with BC Wildfire Service to enable their expertise to allow you to pursue some more mitigation and the plans that you have going forward.
Derek Rinn, I can take this one. Yeah, so we do work with BC Wildfire Service, as we said, and we have an agreement with them to fight fires. Working specifically with them, they want to keep the power on because they use it for their wildfire fighting activities. So they're actively working with us through the Emergency Operations Center, right, every one of these events. Because they need for structure protection to run their pumps. So we're relying on their expertise when it comes to these events that we're in. I don't know if that answers your question or if...
Yeah, so it's more of an ongoing program that you already have in place rather than looking for more ways that you can benefit by working with
I think what Lisa had referred to, that will be part of our future model, so we don't know yet what that looks like. Currently, we work with them on each individual event, and we lean on their expertise to help us out because it's a mutual benefit. We want to keep our assets intact, and they want them to help them fight the fires.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, thank you, Ms. Freckle. And now I believe it's Mr. Wong and Ms. Maligaspe on service quality indicators.
Yeah, we have to have a quick shuffle of presenters.
So maybe I can just cut to the chase. Is FBC doing better than FEI? Or about the same?
Okay, maybe I'll cut to the chase too. So maybe we'll shorten this. So for 2022, as an overall summary, for the 8 SQIs for benchmark, 6 met or better than the benchmark, with first contact resolution better than the threshold, and only one telephone service factor non-emergency lower than the threshold. Would you like me to skip everything else?
No, I'm being facetious. Please, I know you have prepared long and hard for this, so please go ahead.
Thank you again for that wonderful introduction and setting up expectations for our presentation. Good afternoon. My name is James Wong, Director of Budgeting and Strategic Initiatives. For the service quality indicators, I'll be providing a brief summary of the 2023 year-to-date results for the suite of SQIs in the MRP, and also the final 2022 results, 2022 being the third year of the MRP. Consistent with Order G4416, where the BCUC determined that it was appropriate to review FBC's service quality for a year in the following year's annual review, today we're reviewing the 2022 full year results. For the final evaluation of the performance for the year 2023, that will be completed when we set rates for 2025, when actual complete SQI results for 2023 are known. As I mentioned earlier, for 2022, for the 8 SQIs with benchmarks, 6 met or were better than the benchmark, with 1 first contact resolution better than the threshold and telephone service factor non-emergency lower than the threshold. Brooklyn Malagasy Manager Customer Experience and Business Performance will be providing more information about this metric later on. And for the 4 SQIs that are informational only, performance for 3 generally remain at a level consistent with prior years, with the remaining 1 average speed of answer results higher. Following are further details about the performance of the safety and reliability SQIs and the customer SQIs. Now on this slide, presented here are the 2021 and 2022 annual results and the August 2023 year-to-date results for safety and reliability SQIs. As mentioned earlier by Ms. Walsh, I would like to note a correction to the 2022 results for emergency response time due to an error. Now, please note, we reflected this correction in the evidentiary update. In the application, the 94% reported for the 2022 annual result is revised to 93%, with performance continuing to meet the benchmark. Also, for the June 2023 year-to-date result of 93% reported in the application, and the August 2023 year-to-date results reported of 93% in the response to BCOAPO 37.1 are both revised to 92% instead, with performance better than the threshold. Overall, for 2022, under the current MRP, the performance of the suite of safety and reliability SQIs with benchmarks indicate that the service quality levels were met. For the 2 SQIs that are considered informational only, performance generally remained at levels consistent with prior years. And for 2023, under the current MRP, provided are the August 2023 year-to-date results, which is an update to the June results in the application. Now, the August results are consistent with the June results included in the application, with AIFR and SAIDI slightly higher, but still between the benchmark and the threshold. As to the performance so far in 2023, the August 2023 year-to-date results indicate that the company's overall performance in this category to date meets service quality requirements.
Okay, Mr. Wong, I'm going to stop you
Sure.
there because I am a little bit troubled when I look at the all injury frequency rate, which has risen from 2021 from 0.67 to now the 1.98. That's 3 times higher in the space of 3 years. So can you tell me the reason for that? And are we seeing a trend that I would find frankly a little bit disturbing?
I can speak specifically to 2022, which shows perhaps quite high compared to history. So we addressed that as part of the response to FPC BCUC IR 23.1, where noted was in late 2022, there were a notable spike in slips as a result of severe winter conditions. And then as to so far to 2023 to date, there were further increase in incidences regarding ergonomic issues and others like that. So we've noted that, and in the response also, we've noted the mitigation actions that we're taking. So for example, if I refer to the IR response 23.1, I'll just refer to FPC as dedicated internal resources to identifying the causes of these events, including associated patterns. In terms of to minimize the risk, these include but not limited to updates and changes to the safety management system, process and procedures, and so on. So we are aware and we are taking actions to mitigate.
So is part of this increase due to the fact people are now working from home and sitting in dining room chairs? And if so, what is Fortis doing about that?
I'll try to answer first and others, but I don't think so. I don't think they're related to from home. For example, in late 2022, those were related to weather events, so that would suggest I'm not at home in that sense.
So what's caused the increase from 2022 to 2023 August year-to-date results then?
I'm going to look up that IR response. I believe it's BCUC 23.1. If you. In the response to BCUC 23.1, specifically regarding to the 2023 year-to-date impact, noted is the following. This trend continued into the early part of first quarter of 2023, and this stabilized, and then the latter part of the second quarter of 2023, FPC experienced an unrelated increase in recordable safety events, being predominantly minor lacerations / cuts requiring medical attention that resulted in another spike. So that's the explanation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wong.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I have a question. It's Leah Worth.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually following up on your question, which is you're sort of saying, what are we looking at here? And I'm wondering if Mr. Wong could provide any information about anything specific that the utility has done rather than just sort of looking at these things in general. Given the fact that your AIFR performance is continuing to suffer, what has the utility done specifically to address the sort of trends of increasing injuries and the types of injuries that you're seeing?
Thank you for the question. I just want to make a note that even though the trend is not looking that good, I want to make a note that the results based on a 3-year average is still within the acceptable performance range as defined. So you'll notice that the 3-year rolling average for 2020, 21, and 22. 2020 is not noted there, but was 0.87, 0.67, and 1.42. They all are well, meets the benchmark. It's perhaps the August 2023 year-to-date results of 1.98 is a little bit lower, but it's still between the benchmark and the threshold and still consider acceptable. As to the specific actions, I don't have anything more specific than what I've articulated, but at this point.
Thank you.
You have a question.
It is following up on that. I get it. Somebody's microphone's on. It's going to drive me crazy. Or crazier. The identified causes of the uptick is too mild a word, the increase in workplace injuries, to some extent related to extreme weather conditions. I think it's pretty clear that is not sort of an anomalous thing, but the sort of ongoing trend that unfortunately we seem to be locked into collectively. I'm wondering what your assessment is as to the extent to which this trend really, in fact, it could be called a trend because of its relationship with climate change, and to what extent you are looking at a more strategic level of different ways of the work being done to take account of the fact that the work environment is becoming increasingly hazardous, let's say, especially for the outside workforce, which is not represented by my client, but my client's certainly concerned about these workers as well.
I'll share. Hesitate to jump in after the BC Hydro confusion question, but actually Mr. Slater has a comment that he'd like to share.
Thanks. It's Doug Slater. I just wanted to add to what Mr. Wong was articulating. Although the year over year, it appears there's a trend, what Mr. Wong was stating was that, towards the end of 2022 and into early 2023, the increase in sort of 2022 and 2023 was caused by, somewhat discrete increase in related injuries. And the challenging part is, although the numbers show a trend, the causes of those are not related. And so in that same response that Mr. Wong had referred to, we do go on to talk about some of the mitigation efforts that we've undertaken, including engaging skilled injury prevention and management specialists to work directly with our employees, focusing on proactive hazard identification, ergonomics, and post-work recovery activities, which are all mitigating against these types of injuries. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's right to be concerned about the safety numbers, and we are always focused on those, and just wanted to speak to the trend comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slater.
I mean, certainly there will always be somewhat random fluctuations and anomalies, but if there's an underlying reality that the outdoor workplace in particular is getting increasingly hazardous, colder, snowier, icier, hotter, more fires, all these things happening it seems to be difficult to deny that this presents the prospect of a sort of locked-in trend, which will be reflected in a greater number of injuries, especially to the outside workforce, and might call for some rethinking of the way that some work is performed. I just sort of throw that out for your general observations.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, and it is a valid point that, as the environment changes around us, so too do our, our safety management programs and practices, and so appreciate that point.
Thank you. That's it.
And I suspect you might see some changes to these thresholds and benchmarks in the next MRP. All right. Mr. Craig, I believe you're next, or is it Ms. Worth? I'm not sure whether that's an O-hand or not, Ms. Worth.
Ms. Worth, I think.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of just kind of cleanup questions or things that occurred to me after some of the parties had spoken, and I'll start with those. I was wondering, and this might be a question for Mr. Ho. I was wondering, because I was looking at the paperless billing information, and I was wondering that if you can confirm whether the savings due to paperless billing recorded under FBC's productivity initiatives, like whether it is actually included in the FBC productivity initiatives across the board.
Regarding the paperless billing that's included in, I'll refer to the section in the application.
The productivity initiative,
Yeah,
section
Thank you.
1.4.2.
Yeah. So on page 6, that as part of the formula savings for 2022, that explains in part of it, but it's a very small part.
Okay. All right. I noted then that FBC's response to BCOEPO IR 1.2 had that 0.1 million of the 2022 O&M savings, and I think that's the amount you were kind of referring to, was considered ongoing and recurring savings. But then page 8 of Exhibit B2, the application, asserted that increased savings in 2022 from paperless billings were 0.5 million. So are the paperless billing savings part of the 0.1 million referenced in BCOEPO IR 1.2, or like, is it all of it after rounding, or, you know, I'm just wondering if you can kind of reconcile the two figures there.
Thank you for the question. Can you clarify your reference to the 0.5 million that I heard? That seems a little bit on the high side.
Okay, it was page 8 of Exhibit B2.
If you can hold on a sec.
I think it's Sarah Walsh. I think, Ms. Worth, is it possible that you mean 0.05 million, which is where we talk about the savings? So that's probably the confusion.
So I'm a little bit slower with technology. I finally got to there on page 6. So it does say on line 17 of page 6, 0.05 million.
Yeah, I noted that. So is the difference between those two figures, the 0.05 and the 0.1, a rounding issue, or are they actually different figures? And if they are different figures, what else is contributing to that 0.1 million that was cited in the IR response?
Thank you for the question. Because I'm an accountant by nature, I would consider a rounding.
Thank you. That's my question regarding that. Then I had a question regarding the commercial forecast. My expert, Ms. Meese, and I have looked at the record to date. It doesn't appear to us that there's information regarding the load in megawatt hours that was added to the commercial load forecast to account for the FBC-owned EVDC charging stations in your evidence. Did we just miss that, or can you confirm whether that is the case?
Qualified to speak to that, perhaps Ms. Walsh.
I was still focused on SQI.
Ms. Walsh, is there somebody who can speak to that on your panel?
Sorry, go ahead. Anthony Ho here from FortisBC. Can you repeat the questions? Sorry.
Sure. Actually, I just wanted to clarify, are we in sort of general questioning now, or is this still just in regards to Mr. Wong's
We are
evidence?
on SQIs, Ms. Worth.
Okay. My apologies. I can put this to an end where we have sort of a roundup, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Do you have any other questions with respect to SQIs?
No, I'm sorry, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Craig, you've been very patient. I assume your question pertains to SQIs.
My question does pertain to SQIs. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. The question is with regard to all injury frequency rate discussion. And I think there's two components to injuries. One is the frequency and the other is the severity. Can you speak to the severity if you have such data? And if you don't, can you explain whether or not you can find it?
Sarah Walsh here. I'm going to jump in, though, like I said, I'm still feeling a little nervous after my confusion about BC Hydro. But so we do actually provide a table in the response to move up IR 2.1 related to the all injury frequency rate. And in that table, we provide all recordable injuries from January 2022 to 2023 year to date. And it includes the total days lost, the nature of the incident, and the measures taken to avoid the recurrence. So I think that would be a useful place to get that information.
That's fine. I just wanted to make the point in the discussion that frequency isn't the only attribute to pay attention to. Thank you.
Mr. Craig,
all my
thank
questions.
you. Thank you, Mr. Craig. Mr. Wong, we interrupted your flow.
No, I'm okay. I'm adaptable. All right. Just continuing on the safety and reliability SQIs. So to address the BCUC's request for information about the drivers that have contributed to the June and August 2023 year-to-date performance for SAIDI, SAIDI being System Average Interruption Duration Index, FBC provides the following information regarding some of the more significant events to date that have occurred, which impacted SAIDI, but which did not qualify as a major event. So on January 20th, 2023, there was an outage at Big White, resulting in approximately 37,000 customer hours. On February 21st, 2023, a windstorm in the Kootenays resulted in approximately 21,000 customer hours. On August 1st, 2023, a transformer failure at Glenmore resulted in approximately 10,000 customer hours. On August 18th, 2023, the Kelowna wildfires resulted in about 10,000 customer hours. And finally, a windstorm in the Kootenays on August 28th, 2023, leading to tree contact, resulted in about 15,000 customer hours. Now, as to why the year-to-date 2023 results are worse than the 2022 results, FBC notes that 2022 performance was characterized by the absence of multiple external factor circumstances like that experienced in 2021, and for which there were no major events that needed to be normalized. This contributed to a better performance than is typically observed. Now, this can be seen in Table 13-11 of Exhibit B-2, showing the historical results. From a historical perspective, compared to recent years' performance, say 2018 to 2022, with 2021 being an exception, 2022 is at the top end of the range with performance of 2.42 and better than the approved benchmark of 3.22. I would say the 2023 year-to-date results are more reflective of the expected performance, as demonstrated by the year-to-date performance better than the approved benchmark or better than the approved threshold. Now, on this slide, presented here are the 2021 and the 2022 annual results and the August 2023 year-to-date results for the customer SQIs. For 2022, under the current MRP, the overall performance of the suite of customer metrics with benchmarks indicate that service quality levels were met with telephone service factor, non-emergency, at lower than threshold. Now, for the two SQIs that are considered informational only, The customer satisfaction index remains stable, with the performance for the average speed of answer higher in 2022 compared to recent years. And for 2023, under the current MRP, provided here are the August 2023 year-to-date results, which is an update to the June year-to-date results included in the application. Now, the August results are consistent with the June results included in the application. As to the performance so far in 2023, the August 2023 year-to-date results indicate that the company's overall performance in this category to date meets service quality requirements, with all metrics at meets benchmark. At this point, I'd like to pass it over to Brooklyn now to provide some details and discussion on the customer metric telephone service factor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wong, but I see Ms. Worth again has her hand up, unless that's an old hand. Ms. Worth?
That was an old hand. I apologize, Madam Chair.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong. And before you go, I just want, in the same way we kind of poke holes at things that look a little troublesome to us, I just want to applaud FBC on your 99.99% interconnection utilization. That's about as perfect as it can get. So, congratulations. All right, Ms. Malagaspe, please.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. My name is Brooklyn Malagaspe. I am the Manager of Customer Experience Business Performance at FortisBC. As James just reviewed, the 2022 customer service quality indicators are first contact resolution, which is better than threshold, billing index and meter reading accuracy, which are both meeting benchmark, and customer satisfaction index, which is consistent with historical levels. Today, I'm going to focus in on telephone service factor, which was lower than threshold at 65%. This was the first time since 2014 that TSF has been below benchmark. As well, I'll speak to our average speed of answer being higher than historical numbers. I will first start with how severe weather events have impacted TSF and ASA. Severe weather events are unplanned, can happen for unknown amounts of time, and can also happen throughout the year. Some examples of severe weather that can affect our SQIs and that Lisa went over in her presentation are extreme temperatures, wildfires, and flooding, to name a few. Weather events that impacted us in 2022 were the extreme cold of 2021, which extended for a longer period of time and had impacts going into 2022. As well, you may remember at the end of 2022, BC experienced another significant storm known as a polar vortex, which led to extreme cold and snowstorms across the province that lasted for about 5 days. The first impact severe weather has on us is our call volume. A severe weather event can cause call volume to immediately increase if an outage occurs. Customer inquiries during an outage are generally to report an outage or to get information on the restoration or approximate time of restoration. The sudden increase in calls immediately causes TSF to drop above forecasted amounts in a very short time, and our average speed of answer to increase due to sheer volume. The second is severe weather events can also cause some customers to increase their usage depending on that weather event, leading to an unexpected increase in high bills. The higher than forecasted high bill call volume is felt over several months due to some customers being on bi-monthly billing. For instance, the weather event that happened in December of 2021 lasted for a longer period of time and resulted in higher than forecasted high bill calls during the first 3 months of 2022. High bill calls are generally longer in duration, may require follow-up work or an investigation, and also lead to some customers needing payment arrangements due to challenges with paying unexpected surprise bills. The unplanned increase in high bill calls contribute to a decrease in TSF and an increase in our average speed of answer. Moving over to the column on the right, in 2022, we continued to be impacted from the challenges in the labor market. This was not unique to just us, but was felt across BC, Canada, and within other contact centers. as we start to see job vacancies nearly double in 2021 and 2022 compared to pre-pandemic vacancy rates. The associated low unemployment rate reduced availability of skilled and talented workers and created challenges that were beyond our control when it came to attrition and hiring qualified staff. Although attrition is normal and expected part of operations, we continue to experience higher volumes of attrition as the job vacancy rate continues to remain high compared to those pre-pandemic levels. High turnover can lead to decrease in TSF and an increase in ASA due to less resources and fully trained employees available to answer customer inquiries. As noted in the application, it can take employees about 12 months to fully learn and be able to support all customer inquiries. TSF and ASA were primarily driven by severe weather and the labor market, which were both outside of our control. Moving on to slide 43, we have put into place prevention and mitigation factors to ensure customers continue to receive high customer service. Starting with the prevention efforts that are noted in blue, we have accelerated the frequency of hiring based on an increase in attrition that we are seeing. We are proactively hiring throughout the year to mitigate any future attrition and ensure we continue to have enough resources to answer all customer inquiries in a timely manner. We've had some success with this, but we continue to have challenges due to the labor market. We're also continuing to focus on first contact resolution, which ensures that our overall service to customers is maintained, as well as reduces call volumes as customer inquiries are answered within one contact. This is done through training and maintaining coaching and development time for employees and managers. Moving over to the mitigation efforts that are in yellow, we continue to utilize overtime and extra hours with unplanned events to fill in any gaps and ensure enough resources are available to maintain TSF and ASA remains within historical levels. Overtime can be used in situations where we find an immediate need to extend hours due to unexpected increase in call volume, staffing issues such as absences, or in cases of severe weather events. Overtime can also be used for prevention of future gaps that have been identified through attrition until new staff are hired and trained to answer customer inquiries. Overtime and extra hours are offered once a schedule is published in these circumstances. We also offer customer services such as the callback feature and our self-serve options for the customer calling in during longer wait times, mitigating overall negative impacts on the customer experience. Self-serve features include options such as our IVR, which is our interactive voice response, that include features such as account balance and last payment. Customers also have access to Account Online, where they can report a payment or make a payment arrangement. Social media and communications are also available to our customers, as well as the FortisBC website, which includes a live outage map. Lastly, we also utilize shared services where gas employees who are trained to support electric customers during electric peak periods to answer calls during non-peak periods of our gas side. We believe the lower TSF and increase in ASA that was experienced in 2022 to be transitory, as prevention and mitigation efforts have shown to improve these metrics in 2023. As I mentioned, this was the first year that TSF has been missed since 2014. Overall, customers continue to receive high level of service as a customer satisfaction index and FCR remained consistent within historical levels. We expect to achieve and maintain performance of FCR and TSF SQIs at the benchmark through the remainder of 2023, and ASA to be around the 1 minute level for the remainder of the year. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have now.
Thank you, Ms. Malikaspi. Any questions with respect to service quality indicators? Mr. Quayle, you have your hand up.
Yes, this is with reference to slide 42. You can turn to that. to sort of anchor this. The severe weather, just convey something that I've been instructed that perhaps indicates another impact of severe weather, which is on the workforce that provides the services. And so, for example, I'm instructed that last winter during a very heavy dump of snow, a lot of the workers were prevented from getting home, or if they got home, it took them a long time. And I guess human nature, I'm not paddling on anybody, but I understand there was a significant spike in sick calls the next time there was severe snow weather. But maybe indicates that some kind of workforce strategies are needed in order to maintain the services when severe weather interferes with your employees getting to the call center. And I know you're all equipped in response to COVID to maintain, should we say, hybrid operations where people are working from home. Have you considered measures like that to maintain the service when people have difficulty physically making their way to the workplace, not just because of snow, but I give that as an example because of other impacts of climate change and extreme weather?
Mr. Quayle, it's Brooke Lamali-Espy. Yeah, so we are with the new collective agreement that was ratified in June of 2023. We do have employees now working from home within our contacts or customer service, I should say. We are currently taking a cautious approach as we want to make sure that we can still maintain service to our customers, as well as ensure that our employees and managers have the resources that they need for working from home. And so one of the items that has come up, and we do have a committee that is Move Up employees as well as our M&E employees working together, and that is something that's come up that is on the table to be discussed. But I don't have a solution for you today, but it is something we're working towards.
Thank you very much. That's my only question.
All right, last chance for SQIs. Hearing none, I think we're now in the open question period, and I know that Ms. Worth has at least one question, but do any others? Mr. Weaver, yes, I believe I'm going to call on you first because you were higher up in the order of appearances. So please go ahead.
In that way only, I think. Just two follow-up questions. One is a power supply question that I missed, and the evidence today. And I take it this is an open forum, Madam Chair. We can go back to questions. Thank you.
Yes.
So we heard today of the challenges for power supply for FortisBC. The wholesale customers are power supply customers of FortisBC that have a cap on their self-generation or what they otherwise may be able to obtain. Has Fortis explored whether increasing that cap might potentially open the opportunity for more clean energy generation within the wholesale customers' areas, and thereby enable Fortis to use that power for other customers?
Anybody from the panel earlier who can answer Mr. Weaver's question? Please come to the mic.
Thanks. This is Shannon Price from FortisBC. I'm not aware of any cap actually at this time, and so I'm not sure how to answer your question. We can look into it and get back to you.
I'm advised there's a 15 megawatt cap in the wholesale power agreements with a number of the municipalities, so that's the reference point, and that can be looked at, and we can deal with it outside of the room. I take it if that cap is in those agreements, that Fortis would be open to discussion if that may assist in making power supply more cost-effectively available in the BCMEU territories.
Sarah Walsh here. I guess what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Weaver, is that this might be something that we can take outside of the annual review for further discussion?
Yes, I'm highlighting it as an option to perhaps mitigate some of the power supply pressures that are on FortisBC, and I would assume Fortis is open to suggestions to mitigate that concern.
I would say that we're definitely open to having discussions.
That's fine, thank you. The last question, and this was a topic with Fortis Gas this morning, and this panel spoke about vacancies and difficulties in filling positions. Is there anybody on the panel who can, and maybe this is best as an undertaking, can provide the equivalent response for Fortis Electric in regards to full-time equivalent vacancies 2018 to, I think Mr. Wong went as far as 2023 in his answers this morning for Fortis Gas, or sorry, for Fortis Electric?
This is James Wong. I believe we provided a response last year to a move-up question related to that, and I can reference that. I'll have to look it up, but we did, that same request was provided for FTE vacancies for last year. And I can speak to the recent 2022 results. It's about, I think about 50 FTEs, consistent with what was reported previously.
So you could update last year's response.
Yeah, we can do that.
Through to 2023, as you did this morning for Fortis Gas.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. And now, Ms. Worth, I'm going to let Mr. Andrews go first because he was ahead of you in the order of appearances. So, Mr. Andrews, please.
Yes, my question concerns an explanation of Exhibit B7, Fortis Electric's response to BCSEA IR 8.1. It's on PDF page 14. And I don't know if there's anyone available who can answer this, but I'll put the question. This is a breakdown of demand-side management spending and savings. And if starting with just looking at the total line at the bottom of the table, one can see that the 2023 planned spending is almost the same as the 2023 forecast spending. However, the 2023 planned savings is some 26,000 megawatt hours per year, and the 2023 forecast savings is 47,000 megawatt hours per year. And by looking at the breakdown above, you can see which sectors are most involved, in particular industrial and commercial. But I'm wondering if someone can provide a high-level explanation of why the sudden manna from heaven for the DSM forecast in 2023.
Hi, thank you for the question, Mr. Andrews. This is Sarah Commander, COMMANDER. Is this? Okay. Just at a high level, you noted the industrial customers are the majority of the savings there. Specifically, I couldn't tell you why, so we would provide that in undertaking, but that would be the direct, like, typically speaking, industrial customers tend to have higher savings, bigger projects with higher savings. So we could get the exact answer for you if you'd like.
That would be great. I'm not looking for quantification or anything in great detail, but just some kind of high-level explanation would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much.
Those are.
Now, Ms. Worth, over to you, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering, just sort of in general, the MRP decision had a provision in it where the BC Utilities Commission directed Fortis to provide an each annual review, a breakdown and explanation of both annual and cumulative variances between the forecast and actual and Formula O&M related to approved new incremental system operations integrity, the security funding, and to quantify the variances attributable to the following areas. And that was tree management, generation dam safety, network operations, apprentice program, cybersecurity, data analytics, and any other significant factors or miscellaneous items. And I was wondering, when I'm looking at things, because sort of the word actual incremental is not a defined term necessarily. I mean, it's something that we all sort of have our own understanding of, but it's not a defined term. How does FBC define or identify actual incremental spending for each category?
This is James Wong, FortisBC. It goes back to how it was defined for the purposes of the MRP application. In the application, we had specified some specific incremental requests to the existing base, and then these categories consisted of the ones that were approved by the BCUC in this decision. So thereafter, we've been reporting to the same categories in terms of actual expenditures compared to that implied by the formula O&M amount.
Thank you. I was wondering as well, FBC's response to BCOPO IR BCOPO IR 22.2 said that it had completed its planned dam safety review activities as of 2022 for the 2020 to 2024 MRP period, and that the funding spent on dam safety reviews is only part of the overall funding approved for the MRP to enable FBC to better meet requirements under the BC Dam Safety Regulation, and that other related dam safety activities may be funded over the remaining MRP period, including dam vegetation removal, dam safety analysis or stability analysis, dam concrete inspections, and other dam safety related studies, assessments, and surveys. And so I was wondering, given the underspend on the generation dam safety in 2022, why wasn't some of the incremental funding directed towards these other dam safety activities in order to meet the requirements under BC Dam Safety Regulation? Is it that there was no other activity required during that, or that had been identified during that period?
This is James Wong again. I'm just looking at the IR response and also referring to page 48 of the application. I would say generally, in terms of spending by each of these categories, the timing of spending can vary from year to year. For example, sometimes in this case, there may be a delay or timing of events, or that would cause natural swings from year to year. But as you can see on a cumulative basis in table 6-3 of page 48 of the application, the cumulative variance to the end of 2022, which represents 3 years, is actually 0.007 million. If I get that right, it's less than, it's very small.
I'll take your word for it, Mr. Wong. I don't trust myself to actually quantify that either without sort of a moment to think about it and write it down.
All right.
But yeah, I guess your answer is that due to the sort of nature of the utilities business, that we need to look at it on more of a cumulative basis than on a year-by-year strictly basis. Is that correct?
Point perhaps I was trying to make earlier for the FEI side. We look at, in aggregate, we're given or approved funding, formula O&M funding in aggregate. What we do every year, we go through a prioritization process to make sure that we have the adequate resources to ensure safe and reliable service and be customer responsive. So things do change from year to year in terms of priority in that sense, but we still end up being really focused on achieving our business objectives, including meeting our service quality requirements.
Great, thank you. I have a question regarding the capital expenditures. So as you know, as part of the MRP decision, FBC had been directed to, you received the following approvals for capital expenditures, and you had approval of your forecast submitted for regular capital expenditures, growth sustainment, and other for the 2020 2020 to 2022 period, and then approval of several items that were forecast on an annual basis, sort of flow through items. And then as part of FBC's 2023 annual review decision and reconsideration decision, FBC received approval of its forecast of regular capital expenditures for the years 2023 and 2024. And there was a reduction in the capital spent in aid of construction that was referenced in response to IR 5.1, and it's a CECIR, so it's Exhibit B8. And it said, with regard to the 2024 forecast of CIABC, FBC adjusted the CIAC downwards based on recent actual amounts, which have been lower than forecast amounts reported in recent years, and in consideration of FBC's expectations of third-party line move requests and customer growth in 2024. And then in the same response, FBC noted that the 2023 projected should be the same as the 2023 approved. And I'm just wondering, can you please confirm that FBC's application includes capital expenditures that are forecast to the same level as those were actually previously approved? And I sort of was looking at, just to sort of hopefully provide you some assistance, table 7.1, 7.2, and page 55 of the application, Exhibit B2 seem to confirm this, but I just wanted to double check that is indeed the case.
Anthony Ho here from FortisBC. So consistent to the past applications, we have shown both capital expenditure and also CIAC in the projected to be the same as the forecast level. But in actuals at the end, we will be providing the actual spending and also the actual CIAC, which for regular capital, which include our growth and sustainment and other, will be part of the earnings sharing mechanism.
Okay, well, your response to the CECIR that I had referenced indicated that FBC had actually adjusted down the CIAC, while from the rest of the evidence, holding the capital expenditures that were forecast for the year to be the same. And so that was I'm just trying to confirm that is indeed the case before I move on to sort of a question asking you to reconcile the two.
I think if you're referring to the CECIR 5.1, I think what we were referring there was last year we had the update 2023 and 2024 forecast, which also include an update to the CIAC. So last year we did adjusted the CIAC as part of the regular capital update forecast for both 2023 and 2024.
Okay, and can you confirm that the 2024 forecast was at that point scaled down from what the figure was previously for the CIAC?
It was lower.
Okay, and was the actual capital expenditures forecast scaled down as well, or were those held to be the same?
Sarah Walsh here. I guess if what you're asking is what we are showing in this current annual review consistent with what was approved in the decision and reconsideration decision, then the answer is yes. We haven't subsequently adjusted our forecast downwards.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if you could explain why it's appropriate to reduce the CIAC when the regular capital expenditures are set to when they've been adjusted. So there's, presumably the two are tied, and there's no such adjustment that's sort of been made here.
Maybe what's best to do for this one is we can take that away and look, because we're just not, like, I think I understand what you're asking, Ms. Worth, but we're not 100%. We just need to look and take a look at our schedules.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions about the cost of living credit, the BC cost of living credit. I was wondering, the $23.816 million that FBC's evidence indicated it received from BC Hydro. I was wondering when FBC actually received that.
Anthony Ho here from FortisBC. Yes, we received the credit.
I was wondering when, Mr. Ho.
We actually received 2 batch. I don't remember exactly the amount, but we did receive 1 batch in end of November of last year, and another batch in beginning of this year.
Was it treated as income and subject to income tax?
So what happened? Actually, that's related to reason why we received 2 batch. One is because we are subject to income tax. So the amount that we received in November, we have distributed all of it before the end of December 31st. So there's no remaining credit there, so it's not subject to any income tax. Whereas the second batch of credit that we got in beginning of this year, we do have a remaining credit right now. Which is why we are proposing to amortize the remaining credit into our rates.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have a question regarding rate schedule 96, costs and revenues to date. And I was looking at table 3-1 from the December 2022 assessment report on RS 96 that was referenced in the evidence. And it included values for the cost of energy, but then netted them out so that there was no actual cost included for energy or for use of FBC's distribution systems for 2021 or earlier. And I was wondering if you could please explain why that choice was made in that report.
Can you provide the table of the assessment report again?
Table 3-1 from the assessment report. And then that is referred to in Exhibit B7, Attachment 10.1 on pages 12 and 13. So that's attachment to BCSEAIR response.
Okay, I got to 3-1 now. Sorry, can you repeat your questions?
Certainly. I was wondering why the decision was made to net out the costs included for energy or use of FBC's distribution system for the years prior to 2021, and I think including 2021 as well.
Yes, certainly. So what happened in as part of the RS 96 decision, once it was approved and becomes permanent, we have changed the calculation related to the cost of energy is part of commercial rate RS 21. But that was only effective on January 1st, 2022, when the RS 96 rate was approved. Prior to that, which is 2021 and prior, the cost of energy as part of the interim rate calculation was calculated based on the BC Hydro 3808 rate. So that was just that's why it was taken out, because it's not part of the RS 96 rate calculation as part of the interim rate, which is between 2018 and 2021. But since then, again, starting from 2022, the cost of energy is calculated as part of the RS21 commercial rate.
Thank you. And I was looking at the sort of in the same line, the RS96 issue. Do the 2 percentage points reduction in cost recovery on FBC's proposed ROE and capital structure include the impact that this will have on the financing costs for EV charging service, the cost of electricity due to the higher 2024 rate increase, and the discount rate to be used in performing the PV analysis of costs and revenues?
If I understand your questions correctly, this is Anthony Ho from Fortis again. If I understand your questions correctly, are you asking if the performance or the revenue and impact of the EV charging station is included as part of our 2024 revenue requirement and the proposed rate increase?
Well, the evidence is that you had proposed equity thickness and ROE in the GCOC proceeding being approved, and the percentage recovery of FBC's DCFC would be reduced slightly by 2% to 78%. So I'm wondering if that 2% reduction in cost recovery based on the ROE and capital structure that's now been approved, I'm wondering what effect that's going to have on the financing costs for the EV charging service, the cost of electricity due to the higher 2024 rate increase, and then the discount rate that's going to be used when you're performing a PV analysis of costs and revenues.
Yes. So first of all, our RS96 rate was approved on a 10 years levelized. So at the moment, we are not proposing to change the RS96 rate at the moment. However, we did mention in some of our IR response, we are at the moment preparing our energy-based rate applications, potentially to be filed end of this year. When we do that, yes, we will be including the new cost of decision of the cost of capital decision with the increased deemed equity and the ROE.
Okay, so what I'm getting from you right now is that you haven't actually sort of, as a utility, calculated the impact of the GCOC decision on the EV program's sort of cost recovery. Is that right? And that you're going to be doing that as part of sort of a process to come.
Yes, we will definitely do that in the upcoming energy-based calculations, energy-based rates applications.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to confirm whether the undertakings that have been agreed to thus far are going to include an update of the impact of today's updated amounts on issues like income tax. So I believe it was Schedule 24 that FBC undertook to update based on what the information that you had sort of updated today. Is that correct? I have very illegible scribble notes, so I'm just actually I'm genuinely not sure whether it's the Schedule 24. I think it was the first undertaking of the day.
So in the financial schedule provided as part of our Appendix A of our inventory update does include the impact due to the inventory update, which is the GCOC decisions, as well as the proposed 2023 amortization of the 2023 deferred deficiency starting in 2024. So part of that, yes, it does have an income tax. You have an increase of the income tax, and that is reflected in the schedule. Again, and maybe maybe you were thinking as part of Sarah Walsh's presentation earlier, there's an amendment to Table 1 of the individual impact of the inventory update. Again, the individual impact has been changed, but the total is not. So again, there's no change to the financial schedule and the revenue deficiency in the inventory update. It was just presentation-wise, the Table 1 and Table 3 of the inventory update was incorrect. So again, the total has no change, and the revenue deficiency in the schedule is also correct.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about sort of the revisions of Schedule 24 showed that the updated income tax calculation for a 2024 forecast the revised Schedule 24 showed a forecast income tax cost for 2024 of 12.484 million. Which was actually 2.409 million higher than the value in the original Schedule 24, which was 10.075 million. And so you revised the 1.75 million figure to 1.85, but we still don't have a reconciliation as between the 2.409 difference and the 1.85 difference that you've identified today per slide 12. And so I'm wondering if you can reconcile those two figures and just sort of explain where the differences may lie.
Yes, I believe one of our undertaking earlier today was to reconcile between the table in the inventory updates, which those table in the inventory update was comparing between the two 2024 filing, the one we originally filed in August and also our inventory update. However, the schedule that you're referring to, specifically Schedule 24, it's comparing between 2023 approved from the GCOC decision and our 2024 inventory update, final proposed revenue requirement. So as part of that undertaking that we will be doing to provide reconciliation between the numbers in the tables of the inventory update to the schedules, we'll include that reconciliation of the income tax increase.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go to the series of questions that it's just two quick questions that I had mistakenly put to you during the SQI section. And I was just wondering, is there information regarding the load in megawatt hours added to the commercial load forecast to account for FBC's EVDC charging stations in the evidence so far? And if so, could you let me know where it is? Because we weren't able to find that.
Yes, certainly. If I refer you to section 3.4.2, page 21 of the application, we did include a line saying the RS-96 load is included as part of our commercial load forecast. However, it's because at the moment, although the EVDCFC load is certainly growing year by year, but at the moment it's still less than 1 gigawatt hour. So, and if you look at the graph, like on the next page, like our commercial load is almost 1,000 gigawatt hours. So a less than 1 gigawatt hour of our EVDCFC load is certainly less than 0.1%. So it's not really shown in the graph or not separately shown. Specifically, I could tell you the 2024 forecast for our EV load is about 770,000 megawatt hour. So again, less than 1 gigawatt hour.
Okay, so the figure that you're talking about actually includes the FBC-owned stations. Is that correct?
That's our stations. The as part of the RS-96 rates, again, as I mentioned earlier, which the cost of energy is calculated under the commercial RS21 rate. So those energy consumption forecasts are included as part of our commercial load under section 3.4.2 of the applications.
True. Okay. All right. And I'm just wondering, is the EVDC charging station forecast consistent with the forecast for 2024 charging minutes that you would find in table 3-4 of Exhibit B2? And the kilowatt per hour usage, or the kilowatt hours, sorry, usage per minute for 50 and 100 kilowatt stations that was set out in Exhibit B7, attachment 10.1 on page 17.
Yeah, the method is consistent. The two are related essentially, like the number of charging minute and the kilowatt hour, the resulting kilowatt hour is related. So it's essentially from the same method.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Worth. Yes, Ms. Walsh.
Just before we canvass if there's any more questions, Ms. Commander actually has a response to BCSCA's question about the high-level explanation of the DSM plan savings. So we thought maybe we could address that now, if that's okay.
Sure, that'll be great. Just removes one undertaking from your list. All right, Ms. Commander.
Hi, yes. So this is in response to Mr. Andrews' question regarding BCSCA 8.1, where he was requesting an explanation for why 2023 actual savings were double plan, or sorry, forecast savings were double plan savings. So the answer to that is, I wasn't quite correct, but the answer is that we've actually switched measure lives for the Strategic Energy Management Program. We were previously with a 5-year measure life with less savings. Now we're at a 1-year measure life with higher savings. This aligns with BC Hydro's methodology and recommendation. Does that answer your question, Mr. Andrews?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Sorry, I should actually add this doesn't impact the cost effectiveness of the SEM program.
All right, Ms. Commander, thank you very much for that clarification. Now, Ms. Walsh, I believe you're entitled to closing statement remarks if you like.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what I will first do is I'll just summarize the 3 undertakings that we understand we'll be taking away for FBC. The first one is to reconcile the deficiency shown in Table 1 of the evidentiary update with the Schedule 1 financial schedule deficiency from the evidentiary update as per the request from BCUC staff. We have a request to provide the table of vacancies for FBC from 2018 to 2023 year to date. That was requested by the CEC. And then we have a request from BCOAPO regarding CIAC and confirming if the 2024 forecast is consistent with what was approved as part of the updated forecast in the 2023 annual review. And I would just also like to take the opportunity just to thank everyone for attending the workshop, and we appreciate everyone's participation. So, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. And on behalf of the BCUC and the panel, I'd like to thank the FBC panel witnesses, Ms. Walsh, Mr. Ho, Ms. Price, Ms. Grant, Mr. Rin, Ms. Rucko, Mr. Wong, and Ms. Maligaspi for participating on the panel. I know, and I said this earlier at the FEI workshop, this is a lot of work. So we really appreciate your preparation and your willingness to answer questions. And also thank Mr. Slater and Ms. Commander for stepping in and providing their responses as needed. And to all the FBC staff who worked behind the scenes to make this possible, as well as the BCUC staff who worked very hard to make this run smoothly. I want to thank all of you. To all the interveners, thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. And we hope to see you next time. And hopefully you'll bring a coat or a blanket or something next time. Yeah, I do have my doubts about electrification, if this is what we get as a result. Anyways, wish you all a good afternoon and enjoy your evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.